BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, this is the Farming Today podcast with me, Anna Jones. In this episode, a prevailing culture of fear between supermarkets and their suppliers. Has the system that was supposed to ensure fairness failed? But first, St Agnes is the most southerly of the Isles of Scilly. It's home to the Hicks family and their very small herd of dairy cows. And this single herd provides milk for the island's residents, around 80 people, and summer ice cream for the tourists. For this Sunday's edition of our sister programme, On Your Farm, Sarah Swadling went to meet them.
You're looking south out across the Troytown Downs. The little beach is called Paraskin. That's Horse Point out there in the end. And yeah, it does look an absolute picture today, doesn't it? Sunshine glistening off a blue sea. And Stripes coming over to say hello to us. But you can imagine how exposed this is when it's blowing. Sometimes the dairy herd will come up here. At the moment we've got these two who are just expectant mothers. The dark one there, Stripe, she is overdue. Not today, I don't think. And then the other one is called Thumper.
This is Troytown Farm. It's run by the Hicks family, and this is dairy farming small island style, I guess you'd call it, Sam.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we have, even at our max, we are only up to about 10 or 11 cows.
Tell me about St Agnes.
St Agnes is about a mile across, tiny little island. We've got one of a few farms on the island, and it's only sort of a dozen acres really of cultivatable land. It's a very small herd accordingly, and as such we have to do the best we can with what we've got.
Thumper then is a little Jersey cow, is she?
That's right, yeah. We have to get replacement cows in from West Cornwall. We'll have to obviously a TB test before they come. We don't have TB over here.
How much of a rigmarole is it to get livestock out here?
They come over in a cattle box on either the Solonian or the Green Maritha.
Which is the freight boat.
The freight, exactly. And then from those onto the smaller cargo vessel that does in between the islands, the Lioness Lady, and it's craned ashore. When it works, it's perfect. We were trying to buy some pigs in a couple of weeks ago, and it was horrendously rough. I don't think the shipping sailed that day, so we're trying again this Friday for those. You know, we know we're out here, and that's what it takes to get them here.
Sam Hicks, and you can hear more from him in this Sunday's edition of On Your Farm at 6:30 a.m. or on BBC Sounds. All week we've been looking at the egg industry, and yesterday we heard about pullets. Those are the young female chicks that grow into laying hens. But for every egg that hatches a female chick, there's another that hatches male. And cockerels can't lay eggs, which obviously renders them useless for egg producers. Now, every year in the UK, 38 million male chicks are gassed at 1 day old. The British Egg Industry Council told us this week that it's a humane method of slaughter and a product in huge demand from zoos, reptile keepers and bird of prey centres, which feed dead chicks to their animals. Even so, the practice of killing day-old chicks remains controversial and has even been banned in some countries, including France, Germany, Austria and Italy. So what's the alternative? Well, one way is determining the sex of the chick while it's still in the egg, so the males never hatch at all. Thea von Niekerk, a senior researcher in laying hen welfare at Wageningen University in the Netherlands, explained to me how it works.
Well, there are various methods that are used. The majority of eggs where they determine the sex is using a method where they take a little bit of fluid out of the egg and then look at hormones or at DNA, and then they can see whether it's a male or a female. And there are also some other methods used where they sort of have a MRI scan or infrared scan where they can look inside the egg and see whether the chick has brown or white feathers, or another method is where they can see what the gonads of the chick, of the embryo is. So they can just scan if it's a male or female.
Okay, and the colour of the feathers denotes male or female?
Yes, there are some breeds. Those are brown breeds where the males and females differ in color. One has white feathers and the other has brown feathers.
Once they know, what then happens to the male ones?
These are taken out and they are used for other purpose. So the hatching process is stopped, and then the eggshell is used for making packing stones for laying hens, just to keep them occupied, and it also contains good calcium for the chicks to use. And the content of the egg is used to make meal that goes into feed for other animals.
Where is this being used as a method?
This method is actually used in various European countries and also in the United States. It is mainly used in Germany, the Netherlands, France. These are countries that are really dealing with this issue.
Dealing with it by banning the practice of killing day-old male chicks?
Yes. This started actually in Germany, where they said we don't want these chicks to be killed. And then it spread to other countries. And as the Netherlands are exporting the majority of our eggs to Germany, we have to meet their regulations.
So what's driving this? Have the bans come about because of consumer demand and public protests? What's driven governments in these countries to take the decision to ban the culling of day-old male chicks?
Well, I wouldn't say it's really a consumer demand. It's more that several animal welfare organizations found that each animal or each life deserves a life. That's what they felt. And from that idea, the demand came to either rear them or not having them hatched.
Why don't we just eat the males?
They are from genetic lines that are bred to produce eggs and not to produce meat. So these males are very lean. You have to put in a lot of food, and then still they hardly grow. So if you grow them up to what they usually do, like 11 or 13 weeks of age, you still have a very lean animal. If you look at how much it costs on food to rear them, then actually you lose money.
So how much does this technology cost?
The methods are improving in a very rapid speed. So the cost used to be like 3 cents per table egg, and it's now down to 1 cent, and it will go down even further because the detection methods are better and better, and so there is less waste. Because in the beginning, it was not 100% detection. You always had this gray area of some eggs that could not be marked as female or male. It's reaching 99% accuracy and even sometimes higher.
Thea von Niekerk. Farmers are too afraid to use a government system that was set up to improve their relationship with the supermarkets, according to a new investigation by BBC One's Countryfile. Back in 2013, fruit and veg producers had high hopes for the then new Grocery Code Adjudicator, the GCA, which was brought in to oversee the relationship between retailers and their suppliers to make sure everyone in the supply chain was treated fairly. Fast forward 12 years, and there are concerns over how effective the GCA really is, with just 2 investigations, 13 arbitrations, little over 1 a year, and it's never once used its powers to impose fines on the retailers, despite more than 200 direct complaints from suppliers against supermarkets last year alone. Here's Countryfile's Tom Heap.
The pretty much constant refrain that we heard from either farmers or suppliers was that they were fearful. They were worried about the consequences for their business, for their farm, if they went to the adjudicator.
And farmers and growers are notoriously reluctant to speak about these things publicly, but you did get 2 of them to go on the record and speak to you. What did they have to say?
We got one to go on the record who had orchards, fruit orchards, top fruit, and he was no longer with the supermarkets, and he just said that they'd moved away from them a couple of years ago because he felt the price was so low. They weren't listening to him. He was angry, getting nowhere, and he thought that alongside a lot of other farmers that they were worried about being delisted. That means in effect the supermarket saying, I'm not buying for you anymore. So that was one of them. And another one was a supplier that spoke to us anonymously, and he was very clear when he had been to the adjudicator, that the adjudicator had actually told him that going to the adjudicator could harm his business, which struck me as particularly poignant, because that is surely the one thing that going to the adjudicator shouldn't lead to. Anyway, here's what he had to say. His words are voiced by a member of the production team.
I saw the adjudicator about an issue, and the adjudicator listened to what I've got to say and warned me off and said that if you start an adjudication process, it will have implications on your business.
Sorry, but the adjudicator actually said, despite the fact that this is supposed to be anonymous, if you go through this, this could harm your business?
Yes, yeah. I was only in a meeting for 10 minutes or so, but I came away from that meeting dejected. The only way I could bring it to bear was to talk to a lawyer.
Well, we reported on Farming Today last week that Alistair Carmichael, the Liberal Democrat MP and chair of the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Select Committee, has been calling on the government to do more to make the food supply chain fairer. But what does more actually look like? What are farmers and suppliers asking the government to practically do?
Well, I think in a way that there's perhaps a bit of a misunderstanding at the heart of this. A lot of farmers think the adjudicator is supposed to be, if you like, their big friend standing next to them in the playground fight, whereas in fact they're more of an umpire, and some would say a rather impotent umpire as well. So they want an adjudicator with more power, and the government is talking about actually new levels of regulator, new adjudicators to cover different specific parts of the industry. There's one coming in for dairy, and there's one coming in for pork, and there's talk of one coming in for eggs. It's interesting you mentioned the EFRA Select Committee, because I understand that next week the Farming Minister, Daniel Zeitner, is being called before that committee to talk about these things again, because the committee seems pretty wound up about the power imbalance here.
Well, Mark White, the grocery code adjudicator himself, was pulled before you on Countryfile. And what did he have to say in response to all of this?
Well, to be fair, he took the questions on the chin, but he was absolutely clear that, first of all, he said prevention is better than cure, i.e. the fact that we haven't had a lot of adjudications and punishments doesn't mean we're not working, i.e. the threat of a big stick can be as effective as using the big stick, if you see what I mean. And he also insisted that the overall system was working and that the anonymity process was robust.
My door is always open.
People aren't confident to push it though, are they?
They can come to me. I have a statutory obligation of confidentiality, and when I approach retailers, I do so in a way that doesn't identify any particular supplier, any particular category, or any particular product.
Is there anything that farmers can do individually to make themselves more robust and to fight their own corner?
It was interesting. We heard from someone who used to be a buyer for the supermarkets who now advises farmers. And he said a couple of things. One, you really should get training on how this works, because the people you're negotiating with have had years of this, spent tens of thousands of pounds. Literally their promotion depends on, how good a deal they can get out of you. So spend a few £100 on the training. Okay, he would say that he's in training, but I think it was a valid point. The other thing was that he said suppliers might be in a more powerful position than they realise, because of global tensions with issues over trade and also issues over climate change, that actually British growers might have more of a powerful hand than they believe themselves. Now that's quite interesting, because it suggests the producers or farmers should be bolder, but they might say, well, that's a game of chicken I'm worried about playing.
You can watch the full story on Countryfile this Sunday at 5:15 on BBC One. Well, that's all for today. I'm Anna Jones. The producer is Beatrice Fenton. Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.